Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ethereum Chats. This is our new interview based podcast series. On this episode, we're talking all things pulled together and their recently launched V5 release. We're going to dive into a little bit into the pulled together origin story. We'll dive into all the cool new features that V5 unlocks. With us today, we have Tim Cox. He is the Director of Partnerships at Generation Software, and Tim will let us know how that relates to pulled together. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Yo, this is so great. It's fun running your own podcast and then being interviewed for a pod. This is a treat. I'm
And,
on the other side of the table.
and for those that don't know, Tim is also the host of the Pulled Together Community Podcast. I'll link that down below. Tim, do you want to give us a quick background on yourself and what you do and how it relates to Pulled Together?
Yes, I've had friends in my life who care about me and want me to do things that will benefit me. And so in 2019 and 2020, I had friends who were like, you need to get into crypto. You need to get into Ethereum. And I dabbled in it, and I like to do things, right? If I'm on the bleeding edge of technology, I want to do stuff. And I was able to swap, and NFTs are around, but I'm like, and then like DAOs were a thing, but there wasn't a lot to do to hold my attention. And so I dabbled in 2019 and 2020. We all know what happened in 2020 globally, and I worked in nonprofit marketing. And what happens in a donor-based organization is they look at what can we cut because the donations are probably going to go down, and they cut marketing, which I led. That was rough on me. That was a really tough time. I looked around, and my friends were like, "You should get back into crypto." And so this time, I actually listened to them. So November 2021 is basically I was heads down full time attention in crypto. And I joined the Pool Together community because why? I was friends with one of the co-founders, Leighton, and Leighton told me about airdrops. So I got some airdrops, thanks Uniswap for that, and was like, hey, why don't you join a community like Pool Together? And so I just was like, let's do marketing at Pool Together. Then I found out there's not very many people in crypto. And so marketing is very difficult to do. But the best marketing in crypto is partnerships. Very quickly, I realized that, hey, we should work with as many protocols and builders as possible to spread that Pool Together goodness around. And so that's how I started doing partnerships and business development and growth minded things. And in July, Generation Software formed. Co-founder of Pool Together, Brendan, formed a software company and then asked me to be the director of partnerships there. So that's how I got there full time. And so since July, Generation Software has existed, and we just launched the new version of Pool Together. I think that's a little bit of that's my origin story. I talked a little bit about Pool Together's origin story. Pool Together came out in 2019 after ETH Denver. Leighton went to ETH Denver to get involved with a hackathon, and then ended up meeting Chuck and Brendan, the other two co-founders of Pool Together, just at one of those parties things that you go to. And then Pool Together formed quickly after that. We're on V5 of it, and this is the final version. This is the thing that will live on and will be immutable forever. So that's where we're at.
Pulled Together launched in September 2019. It is an OG protocol. I grew up with Aave, with Compound, with MakerDAO. I think the first iteration might have generated yield from either the DAI savings rate or from Compound,
Mhm.
but so much has happened since. Do you want to give us a summary of how the protocol has evolved since you've been a part of it?
I'm gonna go high level and like less detail, and the more recent I'll get into more detail. But basically, prize savings account concept of Pool Together is a long time financial privative. It's existed in the UK to help the United Kingdom pay off war debt, and there's billions of dollars, and they're called premium bonds. And so people just save their money, and the yield from that money is distributed in prizes. And it's perfect for crypto, right? In crypto, it's very easy to save money. That's one of the dynamics is staking, and then you get yield from it. And then why not, if you're only doing $10, $100, and the APRs are lower, why not make it a little spicy and distribute that yield as prizes, right? That was the core idea, to encourage financial literacy, financial freedom in a place where there's a lot of speculation and a lot of degenning, and using that cool mechanism to entice savings. And so there's been iterations of Pool Together where it's like, hey, we want you to be able to save any token that you want, but each vault has its own prize pool. And then What happens is some vaults had decent prize pools and other vaults didn't have any prize pools. And that's very frustrating if you wanted to save that. So then in PoolTogether V4, it's let's save USDC only because that's the stable coin. Like, why not just save the stable coin in Aave, which is OG yield source, which is super safe. That generated 55 million in TVL and had 60,000 unique wallets deposited in it, which is pretty good for crypto, right? Especially if you're not have some weird Ponzi mechanic or something. Those are solid numbers, but we really wanted users to be able to hold whatever they wanted, but in that safe, secure way. The values of PoolTogether, one of the main ones is no loss. You should not lose any money. And the other one is you should be able to withdraw whenever you want. With those two mechanics in place, we've launched V5 now using 4626 yield sources. You can save USDC, ETH, wrapped ETH, and DAI right now, and it's fully permissionless. So if you have a token that you like and it has a yield source that's ERC-4626, you can go create a vault, a PoolTogether vault. You can add the PoolTogether prize layer to whatever DeFi that you want to do. It's fully permissionless. We've kept it OG and safe, but then also users can take it wherever they want as it's permissionless. And I'm excited to see what the community does with it.
Taking it back to V4, so basically you deposit $1, one USDC, you get a receipt token back, which is basically one raffle ticket. What happens to that deposit? It goes into Aave. What determines the prizes? How many prizes? Does a portion of that also go into a specific prize pool?
A big challenge with PoolTogether has been how do we make it enticing with the big prize and people win enough to where they find some sort of like everyday excitement out of it and balancing that. In this last version, the community actually controlled the prizes. There are a couple tweaks. And then this last iteration of V4, we finally started being able to roll over prizes into a larger grand prize. So we got to the point where once a month, a $5,000 prize would be distributed. There were a couple times when it happened twice a month, but it was basically trying to find that tweaking those prizes. Now in V5, again, we want to get as permissionless as possible. We want to get as immutable as possible. Eventually, those prize tiers and all of that will be fully automated and algorithmically determined. As far as things like gas costs, it doesn't make sense to have a dollar prize when gas is $50. And so ideally, the algorithms are doing all of that automatically and can't be influenced by the community or by governance or anything like that.
PoolTogether started off on Ethereum Mainnet, then the gas fees were crazy high. Then I believe it deployed on Polygon, and then most recently last year, was it with V4 that it deployed on Optimism?
Yeah, that's correct. We were V4 was on Mainnet, Polygon, Avalanche, and Optimism.
Sweet. V5, I believe it was in beta. You deployed it last month, but this past week, it got open for all users. Is V5 right now only on OP Mainnet?
That's correct. It's only on Optimism right now, but there's plans to go into big boy mainnet and then looking at Base, looking at Arbitrum, looking at ZK EVM, ZK Sync Erupt as well.
We'll dive right into V5. I'll link the blog post for anyone that wants to check it out. The main thing that it mentions is a hyperstructure. The blog post links to a post from Jacob Horn, which is the co founder of Zora. It discusses the topic of a hyperstructure, which refers to crypto protocols that can run for free and forever without maintenance, interruption, or intermediaries. From my intuition, I guess this is the permissionless part, right? It's almost like the Tornado Cash smart contracts. No one can take them down. So with V5, the contracts, are they non-upgradable?
Yeah, this is so I said there were two like values that amongst many values. One is no loss, the other one is withdraw whenever you want. But yes, it's fully permissionless, it's immutable. It's going to run for the next 200 years or more. It's unstoppable. It's going to go forever at least in our terms. We don't take a fee, there's no fee. Now, vault creators could take a fee if they wanted to. And there's some cool dynamics that you could do where like the fee might go back into the vault to juice the vault a little bit. That's pretty cool. This, because it's free, because it's available, it's unstoppable, it's dependable, it's out there. it's very valuable. We call PoolTogether the prize layer of DeFi. And there's the idea is that people can build with us and make really cool things that we've not even thought of yet. And Vitalik just didn't tweet it. He casted it last week at his AMA on Farcaster. Listen, PoolTogether, the best thing about it is it's a simple concept. And what's going to moon it, he didn't use that, but what's going to really take it to the next level is people being very creative with that simple concept. And so that's where the value comes in. It's expansive. Yes, it's got its incentives. So for the smart contract to run, it needs bots. And what we can talk about this too is like you have all these vaults, right? And all these vaults from all these different tokens are generating yield. That yield needs to be converted to pool. And then that yield needs to be distributed to token holders as prizes. And so it's incentivized. So bots that sell pool to the smart contract get it at a reverse Dutch auction rate. So it's really cool. The closer we get to the time when we need that yield, the bot's willing to give more yield for pool because it needs the pool. Whenever the price is right for the bot, boom, the thing happens. So it's incentivized to run forever. And yeah, it's positive sum, and it's full. Again, anybody can use it. It's not gate kept.
There you go. That's the biggest change, I believe, from V5 is anyone can now deploy a custom vault, which what was that? I don't think that was possible in V4, right?
Correct. Yeah. There was like pools, there was some things in earlier versions of that, but like this one right now is this is the anybody can there's a vault factory tool. You could use it. You got to make sure that the vault's actually deployed correctly when you use the vault factory tool. If you got an ERC-4626 yield source for a token, you can create a PoolTogether prize vault.
And V5 like changes the way to think about the protocol. With V5, you have multiple front ends now. So is it a liquidity model where Pull Together itself doesn't maintain the main front end and anyone can deploy their own front end for the protocol?
Yeah, that's right. Generation Software maintains the Cabana front end. There's also a community run front end called Pooltime. That's more of like a pro mode. So you might see more vaults there than you'd see on the Cabana app. There's also a way with Pooltime that you can manually compete with these bots for yield, which is pretty cool. Even if you don't know how to build a vault or build a bot, you can compete with the bots using the Pooltime front end. So yeah, it's really cool. It's encouraging building with it. And also, I think we're changing our distribution strategy. I think that just generally in DeFi, if you have a dApp, you want people to use your dApp, right? They need to use the dApp browser in their wallet, or they need to go on their desktop and go to your website and then open the app and connect with a Chrome extension. And for PoolTogether, we're on the cusp of seeing people being able to swap into these vaults through their wallets. And that to me, especially for our consumer that we're targeting, the PoolTogether protocol I really think is made for the retail $10, $100, $1,000 deposit max. Like people who are saving little bits and little bits for a vacation or a computer or something. And then they can win big on top of that. That's who we're after. And I think swaps within wallets is the way to go rather than trying to get some like really beefy integration that's going to take tons of dev work. But yeah, the front ends, we can have multiple front ends, but the front end isn't the place where most people would interact with PoolTogether. Ideally, they're acting in the swap, which is like the very basic element of crypto is swapping. And so we want to see PoolTogether in swaps, in all the wallet swaps.
Yeah, you get to skip that whole process. Traditionally, you go to pulltogether.com, you deposit into a vault, get your pull together receipt token. You're completely skipping over that process and going one click, swap into pull together price tokens. Pull together tokens, ERC-4626 tokens. I believe that's like a recent standard. Is that what unlocks together tokens to be composable in DeFi?
The vaults are ERC-4626, but you're issued an ERC-20 token as your receipt for the deposit. Ideally, you're swapping into these vaults, not even needing a liquidity pool. Ideally, these swap features in wallets would be able to use routing, especially like cross-chain routing, to be able to interact with the smart contract directly. That's the dream. But still, we're not there yet. We're not widespread. Like DEX aggregators aren't picking up the zaps like Portal.fi. There's talk about like how can we encourage liquidity. Right now, there's probably $1,000 of USDC, prize USDC on Uniswap right now, and we want to see that grow because that's the way. That's the way to get into that swap feature right now.
So right now, when someone swaps into pull together USDC, say on Optimism, does it take that from a liquidity pool?
Yeah, but you can go to a site like portals.fi and you can use their interface and swap directly into the smart contracts. Basically, you're using their swap feature, but what's really happening on the back end is it's just as if you're going to app.cabana.fi and using the DApp, but you're just using their swap feature, which is cool because you can put any input on Optimism, including other vault tokens. So, say you have an Aave vault that's USDC, and now you're like, I want to swap into Pool Together's Aave prize vault. The user can do that through portals.fi right now.
Are there any liquidity pools available right now?
It's just user generated for funsies on Uniswap right now. There are a couple liquidity pools that have been started, but they're pretty low on volume and liquidity.
The pull together prize tokens into Uniswap, do you still qualify for the prize as an LP?
You don't. Back in V4, if you had tickets, you had to delegate them to yourself, basically, to activate your deposit if somebody sent you Pool Together tokens. In this new version, the bots automatically claim the prizes and send them to token holders. And so, what it would do is it would send those prizes to the LP, and the LP is not able to receive those, so it would be effectively burned. And so that's also, so that creates deflationary pressure on the pool token. That allows us to incentivize as well. If you're holding an LP, we want to incentivize you like, hey, you're losing out on some prizes, here's some incentive to actually LP because this helps the distribution of these prize tokens.
A big part of V5 is automation, as you mentioned multiple times, the bots. The change here is that from V4, you had to manually claim your prize, and it was in USDC. Why was the switch from USDC to pull token and the new release?
Pure utility. So the thing about in V3, you have all these different prize pools. If you're in the Die Vault has its own prizes. The ETH Vault has its own prizes. You don't get the power of one prize pool for everybody. And so that's what we needed. We needed one place where all of the prizes of any token, like if it's any token, any yield source, that means you're going to have so many possible yield sources. How can you unify that yield into one thing that you're sending out as prizes? And that's the pool token. It's a perfect fit for that. So that was the decision that was made by the community to do this. And yeah, that's why.
If you deploy a custom vault, can you select the prize token, or does it have to be pull token?
No, it has to be the pool token. That's a great question. There's this thing called hooks also that there's ways to hook into the smart contract to automate and do different things. So you could do something where pool is automatically swapped for something else. If Optimism wanted to have an OP vault and they didn't, and they wanted people to hold to grow their OP holdings, there might be a way to do a hook, to use a hook to automate that or to do something with that. But yeah, no, the pool token is necessary for that.
I'm sure it also helps increase like unique token holders for pull together.
Yeah, that's the desire, is to be able to put pool in more people's hands, right? If we have 60,000 unique wallets, Pool Together depositors in V4, and they all had the power to vote in governance, that'd be pretty sweet. And then we want to, yeah, spread that pool token, and then also there's ways to encourage that too, as far as holding the pool token as well.
So, diving into governance, so I'm going to read directly from the V5 announcement post. So, in terms of governance changes, quote, no governance controls, no voting, no multi-sigs, no permissioned roles. Pull together V5 removes manual protocol governance and replaces it with automation powered by a series of incentivized auctions. And we discussed that. Those are the bots that are incentivized with a reward to execute an action. Where does this leave Pull Token in terms of utility and governance?
Yeah, so the pool token has governance power as the treasury exists. So as the treasury winds down, then that would reduce. And then also there's yeah, that's basically the way that would happen, is that the utility is fully the function of the pool token.
For the DAO treasury, are there any incentives for like new builders to create cool stuff on Pull Together, maybe deploy a new front end? Or
Yeah, PoolTogether has a grants program, and it's poolgrants.org. So that's the way to apply for a grant. Also, just getting in the Discord, and we have a very active developers channel, and we use Coordinate to reward contributors as well. Also, anybody can apply for budget request if they wanted to as well, within the PoolTogether governance. So there's a couple different ways to go about that. And also, as I'm talking to different partners, there's these cool things that are forming where it's like, oh, hey, like we are talking to like portals.fi, and we're connecting them with the pool time community team. And so there's other cool ways to build and other potential incentives that could be there as well.
you said you can add a fee to a ERC-4626 vault on Pull
Yeah.
Together. So who's someone that would want to deploy a new vault, and what's the benefit of adding a fee?
Depends. Ideally, for growth, you would probably not want to add the fee, but there's cool things that you could do with fees. For example, like if an NFT creator, like if an artist wanted to use Pool Together Vaults to fund their art, people could in a no loss way deposit in a pool together, and then the prizes could go to the creator. Maybe you wouldn't do that in a fee structure, but maybe they would. Maybe they would want, like, the creator would take like a 1% fee of the deposits as like a thank you, and then everybody else that's deposited in that vault would be able to win prizes as well as know that they're funding a creator. So same thing with a nonprofit, right? You can save and win, but then also help your favorite cause, your favorite nonprofit. You can fund public goods with that. So that's another way to do it. What I was saying also is you can actually put the fee back into the vault, so that even though the deposits might be lower in the vault, the fee might be higher, and be able to get more yield and more prizes for that vault. So you would have TVL in the vault that would not be prize winning TVL. So it would just encourage people to deposit in that vault. So it's another way to do.
What comes to mind for me, I think you mentioned it it would be possible with hooks, is say a new protocol wants to run a liquidity mining program, they can start a new vault. It'd be cool if they can distribute their tokens by having a prize given to those depositors.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. That's a good way. I'm trying to think of there was another recent idea that you just, oh, for example, delegation. So this is another way to do it. I was just speaking with a protocol that wanted to incentivize builders, or they wanted to incentivize people using credentials, right? So you can authenticate that you have a credential, and then they wanted to give USDC. And I was like, instead of giving USDC, why not deposit a bunch of USDC into Pool Together? And anybody with these credentials, you can actually just route the prizes to them, rather than, so it's no loss. They didn't lose any money. Whenever they're done with this, let's say it's a 6-month campaign, they can withdraw their funds, and then all the prizes went to those credential holders.
In the beginning, you mentioned there are plans for other chains. What's next for Pull Together? I see there's like new apps rolling out with support for V5. This morning, you had portals release support for swapping into price tokens. What's next for Pull Together?
I think the wallets thing is a really big deal, making sure that these prize assets are showing, the prize tokens are showing up in the wallets, and that users have access to them within the swap feature. And it's really ideal for wallets, right? Because if users are swapping, wallets get a small fee potentially from those swaps. But then also users are going to receive pool, and there's like a notification that they just won a prize because they receive pool, and the user might want to swap that pool into something else. So again, there's this like feedback loop and this activity loop for users who are deposited into Pool Together. Yeah, wallets, come at me, because this is our goal. This is what we want to see. So I think that's one thing that's really exciting about Pool Together, and that really goes into the distribution of it. Yeah, chain expansion. We want to be on Base, we want to be on Arbitrum, we want to be on ZK EVM and ZK Sync Era, and just as long as we have these OG yield sources that are available on there, we can go there. And then as long as it's EVM. So that I think is a big deal. I'm excited to see the community. Pool Together has the best community in the business, in my opinion. I'm biased, but it really is so great. Our community calls. If you haven't been to a community call, you need to come to a Pool Together community call. It is a party every time. It's really fun. Everybody's welcome to interact and participate. So I'm excited to see what the community does. And because I'm partnerships based, I'm excited about this routing, this cross chain stuff. I'm excited about $1 million prizes. I got to speak that into existence. If we can get up to 200 milli TVL on one of these chains, if we can get to like 200, 250, we're going to start seeing some beefy prizes, and that would be really exciting. So those are the things I'm excited about coming up for Pool Together.
What was the TVL on V4?
We probably hit 60, right? I think that's right.
And so if there's any depositors right now, is there a migration process?
Yeah, so if you deposited in Pool Together V4 on Optimism, Portals.fi has a migration assistant. So you can just pick your old PTA USDC from Optimism, and then you could pick the new PUSDC for Pool Together V5, and you can just use Portals.fi, easy peasy. So that's one way to move your deposit over. But you can go to PoolTogether.com and withdraw your deposit, and then bridge it over to Optimism if it's not on Optimism, and deposit that way as well.
Are the V4 vaults winding down in terms of prizes and everything to get everyone to migrate?
That's right. Yeah, we're fully V5. We're fully hyperstructure. It's the future, right? This thing's going. We want to have all momentum going toward V5.
There's so much cool stuff. There's the hyperstructure, there's variable rate, generalized Dutch auctions, which is used to incentivize bots to process the claims. I'll link the announcement post down below. Tim, thanks for coming on, and where can people reach you?
Yeah, hit me up on Farcaster, Tim Cox, TIMCOX. I'm on Twitter, Tim N Cox, N as in Nathaniel. And I'm on Lens as Tim Cox. I love talking to people. So if you want to talk, just at me. If you're in New York City, let's hang. Thanks for having me.